The investors, and our correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease caught up with him earlier. He joins us live now via Skype with an update. Sherwin, a very good afternoon to you. Now, you met with the minister earlier. What did the two of you discuss? Any chances that the minister convinced investors to make South Africa their home investor?
Well, let me start by saying that it's probably a work in progress, Alicia. I mean, as we, the lay people that probably don't understand the intricacies of these deliberations, we are in panic mode, right? But this was a finance minister with a delegation that really was exuding an air of confidence. He arrived in New York early this morning, probably late last night, early this morning, I'm not quite sure. From Boston, where he was meeting investors, people that have invested, he told me, billions in South Africa. And before that, in London, and really, I think, taking that message post his budget speech when all this began, the reconfiguration of South Africa's economy, the fiscal consolidation, if you will. And it's that message that is brought here to New York. Whether it's done or not is unclear. But I think I'll stick with my first answer that this is a work in progress.
Look, Sherwin, according to the minister, the looming junk status review, could it be a real possibility for South Africa?
Good question. It's a question I put to Pravin Gordhan. I first asked him what his reaction was to Moody's announcement of the downgrade review. He said he knew about this before he even left London. They had the courtesy of telling him before the announcement, and he said, really, this is an opportunity for South Africa to essentially show its mettle, to really, whether they're meeting with civil society, with academics, or with government, to show that this is something that they can beat. I then asked him also, Alicia, if junk status was the end of the world, and he corrected me. He said, that's not really the issue. The issue is to persuade the world. Let me quote him here. The issue is to persuade the world, as labor, as business, as government, all the constituencies that represent South Africa. We have work to do. We're the best organized, the most sophisticated economy on the African continent, notwithstanding the fact that we're now the second largest economy after Nigeria. But this is a moment for South Africans to seize and to demonstrate that we can turn this around. So, going back to my first response here, there's certainly an air of confidence here. He's brought a lot of facts with him. He's characterized the deliberations. I said to him, take us into the room. What are those discussions like? He said, very frank. They're asking very frank questions. They're very specific. They want to know exactly what we're going to do in terms of infrastructure acceleration, what we're going to do in terms of energy investment, and what we're going to do in terms of fiscal consolidation. This is a question, at the end of the day, this is a question about the government's balance sheet, the GDP ratio to debt in South Africa, and it's about bringing that debt around, pulling back and tightening the purse strings. And I think a very, very candid discussion happening in those rooms, although we're not allowed to sit in on them.
All right, Sherwin, very quickly before I let you go, you spoke of panic earlier. I mean, here in South Africa, I think everybody's on edge about the fact that the officials will be coming for the review. But what is the notion over that side? I mean, looking holistically at the current global status of the economy as well.
Well, I mean, if you think about it reasonably, this is a whirlwind of factors. I mean, it's the perfect storm on a negative trajectory, if you will. You have global and local international markets that are very unpredictable. It starts in China every day, and it moves west through Europe, and it ends up here on Wall Street. So that volatility, these external factors are out of South Africa's control. You also have the internal factors of the drought, having to import large amounts of grain. That is costing the government money that they generally would not have had to spend. There's the need for accelerated investment in energy and infrastructure, and really to bring down the wage bill and bring back stability in terms of industrial and labor relations. So all of that needs to come together so that we can have an economy that is growing fast enough. Moody's, in their midterm note earlier this week, talked about 0.5% growth in 2016. That's not enough to dent stubbornly high unemployment. That is not enough to bring this economy growing fast enough so that we can change the lives of people on the ground. So that really is the challenge. And I think from the minister's point of view, he said, look at the delegation I've got with me. He had representatives from Fedusa, had Dr. Chris Visa from retail, one of South Africa's richest men. So it's a collaborative effort here, and it's all hands on deck. It's not just what Pravin Gordhan can do, but what everybody, every stakeholder in South Africa's economy should do to get us out of the deep hole we're in.
Absolutely. Thank you for that update. Sherwin Bryce-Pease live to us via Skype in New York.